Hi, I'm Chef Lynn, and today I'm at the Plum Market in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. As you can see, we're standing in a beautiful produce department, and we're going to take a look at some fresh fall vegetables and a little bit of fruit. And then after that, we're going to go and meet with the executive chef, and he'll show us a little dish that he would make with some of the things that I've chosen. With me is the produce director himself, Phil Cassis.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Glad you could be here today.
Thank you.
And the first thing I want to take a look at is this display behind me, and it's all the squash. Whenever I'm looking at squash, I feel lucky that English is my native language because we have 3 words for these things, and some languages only have 1. So we have gourds, we have pumpkin, which means a specific thing, and then we have squash, which covers everything else. So Phil, how do I know which is a gourd and which is a squash and which is edible and which isn't?
Well, generally the gourds are going to be separated from the hard squash, just so there's no confusion. What you want to do with a gourd is it's an ornamental, you won't eat it. But you can dry it out, and the seeds make a great maraca, and it makes a great centerpiece for a Thanksgiving table.
So if I wanted to dry this out, where would I put it? Would I put it in a cool place and just leave it alone and let it dry out?
Put it in a cool place, or just leave it on your counter, leave it in the middle of your dining room table.
Okay, so as Phil said, these are just for decoration. They're so ugly, they're cute, and they're pretty, and they've got lots of great colors. A lot of people use them just for decoration on their tables, but they are not edible. So remember that gourd means inedible. So now what's this squash here? This is a cute little one.
That's a delicata squash, and this is a very, very mild squash. It has very thin skin. You can eat the skin, and the flesh has a taste that's reminiscent of corn.
Corn, okay, that sounds great. So you would bake it or steam it?
You can bake it, you can steam it, you can do anything, any way you want to cook it. It's a very versatile squash.
Yeah, so that's kind of the modus operandi for all squash, isn't it? You can steam it, you can bake it, you can wrap it in foil and roast it.
Yeah, there's hundreds and hundreds of ways to prepare squash.
Okay, great. So let's look behind me. This one, people always ask me about this one. This is my favorite squash.
This is the butternut squash. And this is one of the most popular squash, and it's generally the biggest, most popular squash. The flesh inside is a dark orange color, and this one has a great sweet flavor. This is probably one of the sweeter squashes.
I think it's actually one of the most flavorful squashes. If you ask squash or squashes, what's the plural?
Squashes.
Squashes.
People say them.
Okay.
You hear it all different ways.
This is my favorite squash because it's so flavorful, and my favorite thing to do with it is to make butternut squash soup. And what I'll do is throw this in the microwave or bake it, and then peel it and freeze the chunks already cooked. So then when I want to make soup in the wintertime, I have that squash all ready, and all I have to do is add spices and puree, and it's all ready for soup. So remember though, if you're baking a squash or putting it in the microwave to cook it, what you need to do is to slash it a couple of times so that it won't explode or it won't split open. So what I like to do is just to take a heavy knife like this French knife here and just slash it a couple times, and that's all you have to do. All right, now our next one is?
This is an orange kabocha, and this is an Asian variety of squash. The flesh inside, it's not as sweet as a butternut, but it's still pretty sweet. And generally what people say about this squash is that it's the baked potato of squash. The flesh inside will be really fluffy and not as much moisture as in an acorn or a butternut.
Okay, and this, speaking of the acorn, here's the acorn squash. This is another one of my favorites because it's really flavorful. And the best thing to do with this, in my opinion, is to bake it. So all you have to do, again, is just slash the top a little bit so it won't explode to bake it whole. Or if you want to, what I like to do is to cut it in half, scoop out the seeds, and then it's sitting there with a little cavity in it where you can put a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of brown sugar. And if you want to, a little bit of salt and pepper, but you don't have to. The butter and brown sugar is plenty. And then bake it for an hour, just like a potato. And it's delicious. You can serve it just like that, or you can slice it and brush the butter over it and serve it like that. That's one of the easiest ways, I think, to do squash. Then over here, we have a really huge one. These can vary in size a lot. Want to talk about that a little bit?
This is a yellow spaghetti squash. They come in a bunch of different colors. They come in orange, and I've even seen some greener ones. This is a very unique squash. The flesh inside, when it's cooked, has a very stringy consistency like spaghetti, and that's why they
It
call
actually
it the spaghetti
even looks
squash.
like spaghetti. I love it.
It's a great substitute if you don't want to eat a lot of carbs. Then you can use a spaghetti squash and
Right.
throw some pasta sauce on it.
The thing about the spaghetti sauce, you mentioned the pasta sauce. The thing about the spaghetti sauce is that it's really, really mild. So it's a good one to introduce kids to squash because it actually looks like spaghetti, but it is so mild that I would also put spaghetti sauce on it, or I like to
Fresh
saute some tomato and pepper and onion, and then I'll mix that in with the spaghetti squash. So to get it to that consistency, what you have to do is, again, slash it and bake it in the oven for about an hour. Then when you take it out and split it, when you scoop out the flesh of the spaghetti squash, that's when it will separate and it will look like spaghetti. If you've never tried that one, that's a really good one. And last, we have back here, I don't know if I can reach one, but we have the sweet dumpling. Is that what it's called?
Yes, this is the sweet dumpling.
Squash.
Same shape as an acorn. The flesh is a lot sweeter. It's a deep orange inside. This is my favorite one.
Okay.
You do everything you do with an acorn, even a butternut as well, and works great with some rice.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
and if you want to make some really special squash soup, roast several different kinds, but make the majority of the squash that you use butternut, and you're going to come up with a really flavorful, wonderful soup. So come on over here, Phil, and let's look at the rest of the things that we chose. I tried to pick some things that I thought people might not know what they were or might not know how to cook with them. So let's start with this one. This is called bok choy, and you can find it big like this, or you can find baby bok choy that's about half this size.
This is a relative of the Western cabbage,
Mm-hmm.
so similar to what you'd see, in the regular grocery store.
Basically an Asian vegetable.
But it's an Asian
Japanese,
vegetable.
Or
Far East. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's a staple in a lot of Asian dishes, stir fries, Chinese cooking. Now, what you want to do with this is you want to separate the leaves
mm-hmm.
and the bottom, but you can cook them all in the same dish. They'll just have a little bit of a different consistency.
So just chop it up into small pieces and put it into your stir fry.
Yep.
It's going to cook really quickly, so that's one of the things you'll want to put in last
And
in your
it's
stir fry.
very, very mild. So
This is an English cucumber. So if you see English cucumber in your recipe, this is the one you want. It's almost always, if not always, wrapped in plastic, right? I don't know why that is. Why would it be wrapped?
they wrap it in plastic to keep the moisture in, so it doesn't go bad as fast.
And what's special about that cucumber?
This cucumber has very few or very small seeds, so they're a lot more easily digestible than a regular large cucumber seed, and there's a lot more cucumber to this cucumber than
Actually, I
than a
find it
normal
more pleasant
cucumber.
to eat the skin of this cucumber because it's so thin and mild. Okay, so if your recipe calls for English cucumber or seedless cucumber, this is the one you want. Now we've got some gorgeous beets over here. I was thinking about this morning. Why is it that beets are always dirty? All these other vegetables are clean, and I know they've been washed, but we leave the dirt on the beets. Why is that?
Well, they generally grow under the ground, and it's hard to get all the dirt off before you get them onto the shelf.
Well,
So they'll
lots
have
of
a
other
little bit
things
of dirt
grow
on
under
them.
the ground too, but somehow they always seem to come dirty. So
Yeah.
you want to stick them in a plastic bag when you pick them up right away so that you don't contaminate all your other vegetables. And actually, when I wash these, I like to throw just a little bit of vinegar in the water to make sure that I've got all the dirt off and the bacteria taken care of. What's special about beets, though, and what most people don't know, is the greens. I would be divorced if I threw the greens out at home. But basically, what you want to do with the green is to make a chiffonade. And realize also that the greens require a lot of washing. I usually put them in a bowl of water and soak them for a little while to make sure I get all the gritty dirt off. So what I'm doing here to make a chiffonade is just rolling it up like this. And then I can take my knife and just cut through it like this, all the way down, or you can take a pair of scissors if you don't have a big knife like that. And you're going to come up with this kind of, what do you call that? Pretty little mixed pretty little mix to cook, and then I'll saute that in just a tiny little bit of either butter, or if you don't want to use butter, just a little bit of broth. I like to use chicken broth because it's so flavorful, but if you're a vegetarian, of course, you can use vegetarian broth. And then I'll add just a tiny little bit of vinegar, a mild vinegar like a champagne vinegar, and some salt and pepper, and then put that underneath the beets, and it's totally delicious. And then you don't lose all the nutrition that's in the leaves. Okay, fennel. How about that?
Fennel is it's a very, very old vegetable. It originated in the Mediterranean region, and it's so
you can tell he's the produce director because he sees it and he's pruning, already pruning.
This one comes from California. They grow generally in the areas similar to the Mediterranean, where it's dry during the summer. And actually, they're an invasive plant, so they've become very predominant in ditches along roadsides.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
These can be used in salads. It has a great sweet anise type flavor. And
so anise being licorice type flavor.
And you can use them fresh in salads. You can roast them. You can grill them, and it adds a great complement to any kind of a grilled vegetable dish or.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You would use
Fish
celery
and
in.
eggs
Yeah.
and anything you would use celery in, right? Then you get that little kind of distinct, different flavor that people can't always identify, and and they're going to ask you about it because it's so special. My favorite way to cook fennel is to braise it. That means I'll chop these all up into kind of equal sized pieces on the stem, this part that looks like celery, and then I'll chop this bulb at the bottom also into pieces that are about the same size that I've chopped the celery into, so that it'll all cook evenly. And then I'll cover it with chicken broth. Again, you can use vegetable broth if you want to, or whatever. Makes you, whatever floats your boat. And then I'll cook that it's going to take maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour for it to get soft. And then I'll use that as an accompaniment to fish or chicken or something like that. Okay, now here we've got all these peppers. Tell me about these peppers, and what I want to know is which ones are the hottest?
Oh, the hottest here. We don't have the hottest available. The hottest available, they come in a package and they say, make sure that you handle with care, use gloves, because they can hurt you.
I've had some peppers before that hurt me. Even just one slice into them, and the fumes were enough to put you on the floor.
These would do that as well. These are a habanero, and these are probably the second hottest pepper that is available in a store.
So this is the hottest one that we have here.
This is the hottest one that we have here.
Okay, and this is?
This is a serrano, and this would actually be the next one that would the next down from the habanero is hottest.
Okay, so we're kind of putting them in order of how hot they are.
Yep, and then this is a very small jalapeno, and they're very small. They were locally grown by some farmers in Homer, Michigan for us.
The jalapeno is one that I use gloves with. So if you're saying these are hotter, then
yep, these are hotter.
And then careful when you're cutting these.
In the middle of this would be your cayenne pepper, the red
right.
finger hot pepper.
Okay.
And then this one is a Hungarian hot pepper. It's very ripe. It's going to be very sweet. It's got the beautiful orange and green in it. So this is ready to go right now.
That's why I picked this pepper out, because I thought it was a good example of how most people don't realize it, but the difference in colored peppers is just their length on the vine. And the longer they're on the vine, the sweeter they are. So first they're green. If you don't like green peppers, you like orange peppers, they're just on the vine longer. So then they turn yellow, and then they turn orange, and then they turn red. And when they're red, as Phil said, then they're the sweetest that they're going to be. Okay.
And this is a banana pepper. This one's not going to be very hot at all. This is what they would make a pepperoncini out of.
Okay.
It'd be pickled.
And these two larger peppers are also great for stuffing and baking. So you can make your favorite meat mixture or sausage mixture, or just plain sausage in the middle of it, and bake them for, how long would that take? If the sausage is already cooked, probably 20 minutes or so would be plenty for the pepper.
Now, when you cook a hot pepper, if you leave the seeds in, you're going to get more oil and you're going to get more heat.
I'm glad you brought that up, right.
And if you take the seeds out, less heat, but also when you cook it, you're going to mellow out the oil a little bit, and it's going to be a little bit
right. Whenever you cook anything,
lighter
it tones it down.
Yep.
Okay, how about this?
This is a
guy
jicama.
right there. Jicama is spelled Jicama.
This is a great vegetable. Generally, you're going to be using it. You're going to be using it fresh. The inside's white. Can be added to salads. I've seen it with.
So you're just going to chop this into dice,
yep,
or
you can chop it into dice or julienne. You can. A really simple one that I've seen is just a little bit of lime juice and paprika.
Mm-hmm. This is crunchy and delicious, and a good thing to keep around for a snack, just like you keep carrots and celery. Okay, we just have a couple minutes left, but I wanted Phil to show you what you do with a pomegranate.
Now, pomegranate it's a very seasonal thing. It's a fall vegetable, and a lot of people won't use it because they don't know how to peel it, because it's very very unique fruit. There isn't many fruits like this. So what you want to do with a pomegranate is you want to take it, you want to cut it in half, and be careful with the juice. The juice is very, very dark red. You can use it to dye things. It will stain, just about anything it gets on.
Including your fingers, right?
Including your fingers. I've seen people dye their hair with it.
Get out.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Now you want to quarter it and get it into nice quarters.
Okay.
And the inside is basically a mixture of the red seeds called arils and the pith of it, and they're very, very hard to separate. So people kind of get intimidated, and they're like, I don't want to go through all the trouble to deal with this thing.
So is this sweet, or?
The pith is not sweet. The inside will be sweet and sour. It has a high sugar content, but also high in acid.
Okay, so you're just going to eat the seeds, or what do you do with the pith?
What you do when you want to peel a pomegranate is you take, and this may get a little bit messy. So
all right.
Just kind of cut it in your quarters and start tapping.
And so the seeds are just falling out.
Yep,
it's a great way to get the seeds out.
The seeds are just falling out, and any of the fiber that's in there that comes out is going to sink to the bottom, or float to the top, and you can easily strain it right off.
Okay, so what would you do again with the pith? With the fiber?
You just throw it out.
Throw it out.
Yep.
Okay. So what we really want to eat is just the seeds.
Yep.
Okay, great idea. Great way to get that out of there. And then just very quickly, we've got something really special here.
This is a new variety of apple, or it's not very new, but it's new to the commercial world. This is what they call a sweet tango apple. And this is a cross between the Zestar apple and everyone's favorite apple, the Honeycrisp.
So it's a great one for eating, not particularly for making pies and things like that, or just eating.
If you like the taste, you can make a pie with it.
It looks delicious.
So,
okay.
And then these are a dry farm tomato. They come from just a very small region in California, the San Joaquin Valley.
So when you say dry farm tomato, you mean no irrigation, right?
No, well, the irrigation comes in the winter. That area of California, very similar to the Mediterranean, has a heavy rainy season in the winter. So it rains and rains and rains and rains all winter.
But the farmer doesn't have to irrigate them.
The farmer just puts the plants in.
Concentrates the flavor, right?
Concentrates the flavor. It stresses the plant to produce more sugar.
This is an extremely firm tomato. Okay, and then last, this is kale.
This is kale, lacinato kale. This is one of the oldest vegetables used during the Middle Ages.
Yep, actually related to the cabbage, but it doesn't form a head.
Nope,
okay?
No head.
It's interesting to me because I see a lot of caterers using this just to kind of fill up a tray and to decorate it, but it actually has a lot of really great nutritive properties. And when I think of it, I think kale cholesterol, because it's supposed to be great in helping you reduce your cholesterol. Okay, great. I think we've gone through everything here. What we'd like to do now is take a few things over to the executive chef and see what he will put together with these ingredients. We're going to take the beets, we're going to take the fennel, and we're going to take the pomegranate. Come on with us. We'll meet you back at the prepared food section in just a few minutes. back on the other side of Plum Market, now with the executive chef, Randy Weed, as he says, just like in the garden. So we gave Randy a challenge to choose some things that we talked about in our earlier segment and put together a kind of a bizarre combination that tastes good. So let's see what you came up with, Randy.
Well, as you guys were looking at earlier with Phil, you have golden beets that we roasted, some fennel that we shaved super thin. I like to keep it nice and thin because that way you get a nice crispness out of it, and it also gives a really good flavor.
Okay.
I usually use the bulbs, and I save the stems and the stalks for doing a little bit something different. I like to braise them and cook them and use them with more of my savory meat dishes.
The
that
stems,
we
you mean the celery part of it that we saw?
Part and the
Okay.
leaves itself. So what we're going to make today is we're going to make a salad out of roasted golden beets, kale, a really good vegetable for you, fennel, goat's cheese, toasted almonds, pomegranate seeds, and an orange dill vinaigrette. Basically, it's really kind of a simple sort of winter salad. So basically, I just use equal parts of kale
So equal parts of kale and
fennel.
fennel.
Yep.
Okay, and you're using the golden beets here. We looked at the red beets.
Okay.
The golden beets are just a little bit sweeter.
Yes.
So to roast those beets, how did you do that?
Basically, you can do it a few different ways. Some people, like my grandmother, likes to take them and just wrap them in foil, and she would just throw them around them and cook them at like
Oil
350.
in there or just foil?
She would just do a foil.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
Peeled?
No, with the skin still on it.
Skin still
Yep,
on it. Okay,
yep.
washed.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Wash them every time. Yes.
No weeds.
So no weeds, exactly. And then you can do that. I also like to take them and I take them and I wash them and I put them in a pan with a little bit of white wine, fresh thyme, rosemary, bay leaf, peppercorns, and a little bit of sugar. Cover them with foil and let them kind of roast that way. Kind of helps them steam a little bit.
Ooh, yum, that
yeah,
sounds
so
great.
it gives them a very unique flavor to it.
Love the sugar. I know I shouldn't, but
yes,
I do.
It's really good. It is really good that way.
It is
so-
addictive. It'll make your family want to eat more and more
yes.
beets. It's a good
Yes.
thing.
Now, what we did for the vinaigrette, this is really simple. And we use a basic vinaigrette for this, a basic vinaigrette ratio. So if you don't know what that is, basically what it is, it's 2-to-1 oil to vinegar. And what I like to do is I like to work with Phil and I get some of this fresh squeezed orange juice. I take that and I reduce it down by half. So I start out with about 2 cups of fresh squeezed orange juice. I reduce that down by half.
To intensify the flavor.
Exactly. And then I
Take some of the liquid out.
Yep. And then I take white balsamic vinegar, half a cup. And then I take 1 cup of extra virgin olive oil, about 2 tablespoons of fresh chopped dill, salt, pepper, and a little bit of crushed red pepper flake.
Ooh, yummy.
I like
There's a
to add
great vinaigrette recipe
yeah,
for
a
you.
little bit of spice to add to it. So I just put that in there.
The wonderful thing about vinaigrette is you can kind of steer it toward whatever direction you want to go and add
Exactly.
whatever herbs you want.
And this one's really universal because it's great for a salad like this. It also can be used in just about anything else you want to do. You know, just roasted fennel if you're just having a regular garden salad at home.
So for this size salad, this quite large salad actually, he used about half of that ramekin.
Correct. Well, I mean,
You don't want to have it be soupy, right?
No, you don't want to have it juicy, but you want to make sure everything gets well coated. And the reason I'm making such a large batch is because this is normally what we do for our store fresh every day. So we would find a salad similar to this on either in our showcase behind me or on our cold bar over here.
Okay.
And we sell it. And that's the nice thing about working within a grocery store as nice as Plum Market. You know, I've been a chef for many years. One of the advantages we have over any other place is the fact that we do work in one of the best produce hot spots that there is. You know, I mean, we have all kinds of great things that come our way.
I know there's a large focus towards supporting Michigan farmers and using
Absolutely.
Michigan products.
Absolutely. We use Michigan products all the time, and those are easily found in our stores because we label them with a special Michigan tag. So you
Great.
know exactly what it is. And we do support our local areas. We support organic. We support healthy. We support a better choice. And that's what our company model is about, is doing that. And that's what the owners Matt and Mark Jonah have come up with. And that's you know that's what we do on a daily basis. And we like to make sure that we have the fresh, we have the best, we have the most thing. And then also too, the other thing that's most important to us is, as you can tell, is that taste. You know, there's no use in making something great with great ingredients if it doesn't taste good.
Yes,
That's a waste
right.
of time. So,
Now we talk about presentation a lot.
Yeah.
And remember, did you see how he mounded this up to make it look prettier?
yeah. So
We
next-
do that a lot.
I do. I can't take the chef out of me. So a little bit of toasted cinnamon almonds on there.
So I like the way you're adding the almonds later
Yeah.
so that they're more prominent.
And you can mix them in too, especially if you're going to have this, but this is just kind of showcase it off a bit. Then we have our goat's cheese, which is just a nice creamy flavor to add this to it. Adds a little more richness to the salad.
And where does
Also,
that goat cheese come from?
we actually get this from one of our local purveyors. We used
Great.
this is one that we got from Zingerman's Creamery, actually. So it's a very nice, lovely, soft cheese. And then to keep it within the theme with the roasted beets and everything else like that, and instead of adding croutons, a nice alternative that I like is pomegranate seeds.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
So-
awesome. So you get the little crunch feeling of croutons, the satisfaction of the crunch, but
Exactly.
you've got some fruit.
Exactly, and this will work great for any occasion, and nice feature for a holiday salad too as well.
Yeah,
So-
and pomegranate seeds have almost a burst of flavor when you chew it. How would you describe that? I don't need. If you've never tasted one, it's
It's kind of like a
like biting into a tiny grape or
It
something.
is. It's almost like you have a little bit of a tartness, then sweetness, a little bit of crunch. It's almost like chewing on a sunflower seed that has wrapped inside a grape, I guess. Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So you just saw the creative side of being a chef, and it's one of the reasons that I really like to cook so much, because it's not just about cooking and taste. It's also about eating with your eyes and how you can create something that's as beautiful as that. Okay, well, thanks, Randy. I
Hey,
really
no problem.
appreciate the dish. It's gorgeous, and we'll be back, and I can't wait to try that.
Okay, great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'm Chef Lynn. Enjoy.